Well, it has been a long time since I've been in my garage. It's also been a very long time since I've done any work to the Subaru. It's taken about 2 weeks off because it's been 2 weeks since the rally of even working on the car. Barely edited videos or anything like that. So it's kind of been a nice break because I was cramming so much work on the car in the last week or so before the rally that I was like getting like 5 hours of sleep with work and everything. So that was a really nice break. But we're gonna pull the car into the garage and I'm gonna briefly go over some of the damage that the car actually sustained, the problems that it was having that I kind of mentioned in the other video that I posted, as well as kind of go over how the rally actually went down and how it all worked out. And I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow in the question and answer video that I'm gonna have with my wife there, who was my co-driver. So if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in this video. It'll be your last chance to actually get them in before we start answering everyone's questions. We already got a bunch to answer. There's like 70 questions that we got to answer. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up, get the car in here and start working. Oh, and I am sunburned. I don't know if you noticed that I'm like red. I'm a very pale person as it is. And I was outside in the sun for quite a while the other day. And I definitely got fried. And I got like raccoon eyes with sunglasses. So it's pretty exciting. I don't know if you even noticed, but I can definitely see it in the camera. So yeah, like I said, I'll stop talking, pull the car in here, and show you the damage. And here she is in all of its very beat up glory. So obviously no rear bumper. It got ripped off on like stage 4 or something like that, which mostly because of the fact that I deleted the bumper beam and I didn't have time to make one, so it was pretty jankety how it was being held in, so it didn't last very long. I managed to keep my mud flaps though, which is nice. Not expensive, or pretty expensive rally armor mud flaps that I want to sell because I've got, where are they? Somewhere over here. I don't know where they are. Somewhere in this pile of junk. Different mud flaps for a semi that I'm going to run on the car. I just got to cut them up, whatnot. So yeah, bumper, lost that, not really a big deal. So as far as cosmetic issues, there really isn't anything else on the car. I mean, it looks muddy and dirty, but relatively unscathed other than the bumper. But with actual issues in the rear, that one right back there, I ended up severing a brake line. The reason that I actually severed this brake line is purely due to me routing the hard line in a bad location, and that was the whole reason why that failed and it actually got severed. So if I had actually been a little smarter about where I put it, not as just like I want to route it really quickly, it would have been fine. It was the actual hard line that got severed, not the stainless steel brake line that I had, because I even brought extra of those, so if that was the issue, I could have just slapped a new one on, bled the brakes, and been fine. Some of the other issues that I did run into, like I was saying, clutch. So the clutch slave cylinder, it's always kind of giving me trouble. It's a stock one for this car, or not this car, but the car that I got the swap from. So that's got at least 90,000 kilometers and it's 20 years old. It's always kind of giving me issues, and I've been able to get decent pedal pressure. It started going out completely, so I had to like pump the clutch quite a bit to actually get pedal pressure or to shift without the clutch near the end of the day. And then no brakes, obviously. But then the other major issue was something to do with fueling or one of the sensors or something like that. I haven't really been able to diagnose it at all, or try to troubleshoot it to figure out what it is. But it'd go super lean under load. I'm kind of thinking fuel pump though, because it didn't want to start just then. Like it was acting like it wasn't getting any fuel, and then it kind of like sputtered to life as if it started to get some fuel pressure. So it might be something with the fuel pump that I have, or fuel pressure regulator, something along those lines, which would be nice. That's simple. I mean, well, not simple, but I mean that would be better than like having to go through replace the throttle position sensor, the O2 sensor, the map sensor, like all that kind of stuff that's kind of expensive if you're going to buy it new, and kind of a pain to find it if you're going to find it used. So we also had some other things that were kind of minor throughout the day and whatnot, just little things that I definitely need to improve before the next rally, especially if there's rain. So we hit a lot of standing water, and I never sealed off the transmission tunnel, like the gasket that actually is around the shifter. So it's all open because I didn't put the plate back on there, and the gasket kind of just flop up. So it's a pretty big hole, and I hit a very large pond almost. It was kind of like a little pond, kind of sideways, coming into a corner, and a whole bunch of water just like hit it perfectly and just shot straight up into the cabin, soaked my wife in a race suit. She definitely didn't appreciate that, and it was freezing cold water, and it was super muddy, so the inside of the car got super trashed. Look at how bad and how dirty this is. Like, there's so much dirt and mud everywhere, especially on her side, which all of it literally came through this gasket right here. And because there was a lot of puddles, all of it back there. So those are kind of like the major issues, kind of wave tops that we actually ran into on the rally. But other than that, the car ran pretty well, and it was a lot of fun to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I'm sorry if you don't want to watch this video. I've already rambled for a while, but I'm going to be talking probably quite a bit in this video, kind of laying out the like logical sequence of events as the rally kind of unfolded, because I really wasn't able to record like anything while I was doing it because we were just so stinking busy while we were doing it. I'm gonna grab a chair, get comfy, set up the tripod, and talk. All right, that'll be a little better. Now I don't have to like hold this thing right in front of my face the entire time that I'm talking. I'm gonna try a little bit. So we'll try to go in order of how it all worked, because I tried to vlog it as best I can, vlog, whatever you want to call it. Which if you guys want to see, it's not very good footage, but I definitely have footage of it. Kind of goes like as we're driving, we left, whatever, loaded the car up on the trailer, get there, registration, checked in, that kind of stuff, and then like going over the notes, figuring out what we actually want to see in the notes. So if you guys want to see all that kind of stuff, just let me know. I'll actually throw that footage together and edit it for you guys if you want to see it. It's kind of been a little late because it was 2 weeks ago, so I'm not sure if people actually want to see it. But let me know. If you want to see it, I'll definitely throw it together and get it out there. So to start off, Thursday we left at around 3, headed there, whatnot. It was pretty close. It's only about 4 hours away from our house, which is really convenient for this rally. And we got there, everything went smooth with the trip and whatnot. Once we got there, registered, dropped the car off, kind of drove it around, went to dinner and whatnot, put some more miles on it, make sure more stuff was good with it. And then we kind of went over the notes, because if you've ever seen rally notes, they were supplied rally notes, so we weren't making our own, and there was also no recce in this rally. So recce is just reconnaissance, and that's literally you drive all of the stages before you actually race them. You can't drive it in your race car, you have to drive it in a different car, and it's just to get an idea, and so you can kind of like modify the notes, or with some rallies, or most rallies if they're large, you actually have to make your own notes. This has supplied notes and no recce, so you don't get to see the roads, and you only get the notes. So it's more of like me trying to figure out what kind of information I would actually be able to understand, and to try to simplify it as much as I can, or my wife can, so that I can process it while driving. Because that's definitely a big thing to get used to, is like try to figure out listening to that, not just driving what you can see, which I would still struggled with a lot in those videos. I'm sure you can tell, like coming up to a crest or something like that, like I let off throttle, even though she just told me, wish you couldn't hear the notes, but she'll just like tell me it's only a right 6 into crest, and then like another 400 is perfectly straight, but I'm still letting up over the crest because I got to get over that and kind of process what it is. So that's what we did all day Thursday. Woke up super early. I put some more work into the car, so I woke up at like 5, and then I worked on the car for a couple of hours to get it ready for scrutineering. Brought it down to scrutineering. All that went super well. It was actually the guy that was running scrutineering there was the guy that I was working with the entire time on building the cage, sending all the pictures and making sure everything was kosher with the cage. So that worked really well, and he had just given the logbook for this car like 2 weeks before that, so he's like, yeah, I know everything's good. I'm not even really gonna need to check a lot of the stuff, just like your safety equipment and whatnot. So that was awesome. Got the logbook a couple weeks ago, like I was saying, and once we did that, we had to go to a novice orientation class because we are brand new to actual stage rally. So that was pretty neat. They don't usually do that at a lot of them, and they're just kind of going over like the rough basics of like how the rallies ran, how like the route book works, what tulips are, or anything like that. Which if you guys want me to actually go into depth, or not even me and my wife, because she's actually probably more versed in that kind of stuff because of her having to do it. We definitely got lost a few times just in the route book and stuff like that, but it's all pretty simple once you actually get the hang of it. There's also a lot of good Team O'Neill videos that you should check out if that's what you want to do. But I can also make a video for that. It's kind of from like a newbie starting out kind of perspective on the whole thing. So anyway, once we did that, scrutineering was done, novice orientation, so it's Friday afternoon. Then we headed over to Shakedown stage at 3 o'clock. Now it had been raining for about 3 days, pretty heavy rain. So Shakedown was extremely wet. It was still pouring down rain when we did it too, which I think I have some video of. Once we ran Shakedown stage, which we did like 4 or 5 passes, and we got there pretty early, we went to Park Expo, and that was in the downtown of Chesterfield, South Carolina, which is where the start of the race was too. We stayed there for like an hour and a half, whatever the prescribed time was, and then we left. It was pouring down rain, so like nobody came out to it. It's kind of lame. The rain ended up stopping probably like 10 that night, which I needed to work on the car some, but I wasn't really able to. So I ended up changing tie rods on this side. I was going to change it on that side because they were causing some issues. I also spent quite a bit of time setting up the GoPros, which none of the footage worked. And I mean, I don't know what it was. I even bought a brand new GoPro for this race. Got like the stupid mic input thing that you have to get, the adapter, so you can actually just run a normal 3.5 millimeter audio jack into it for the input on our intercom system, and all of that. And some reason every time that we would start it, even though I proofed it all in the parking lot, everything worked fine, once we got on the first stage and I hit record, 30 seconds in, it would just beep, 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 and then shut off. Both of them. So I had one facing us and then one with the actual mic in. So I don't know why they were both doing that. They've been great in the past, and that really sucked that we lost all that footage from the race. So in the future, I think I'm going to just get some Hero 4s, because that seems to be like the normal thing that people get. They're super cheap, and they don't require any weird adapters for a line in, like an external mic. So that's good. I don't have to have that. And they seem to be pretty reliable, and the batteries are a lot cheaper. They're cheaper in general. I could get 4 for the price of one new GoPro. So yeah, that's definitely gonna probably be what I'll do in the future, and just outfit the car with that. And then the only footage that actually came out was the little GoPro that I had on my helmet, and I ended up bumping it after the 5th stage, and it was literally just facing like my face. So it was attached here, pointed in, and it was just a whole bunch of fail on that. And there's just so much to do when you have issues with the car that it's so hard to film. And that's why like the vlog didn't end up working that well. But anyway, I'll get back on track kind of how the day went. So Saturday, woke up super early, worked on the car some more before the race, got dressed in the race suits, headed down to Park Expo, same place, Chesterfield, downtown. We got there super early, like 8 o'clock or 7:45. It was early for when we were actually launching, and we didn't have a start time until like 9:52 or something like that. And that's when we actually left. And the way it works, so you leave Park Expo, you have your time card, you leave it. From there you travel, or you transit to your very first stage. So you get there and you wait until your prescribed time to actually check into that time control. And then once you get that time control start, then you actually begin the actual race portion of it. But the race is actually all the transits, all the services, everything. You have to hit perfectly at the right time, which the math is pretty simple, which is another thing that if you would like explained, let me know. We'll throw a quick video together kind of showing what a time card looks like, how you actually fill it out, where the math comes from and whatnot, because it can be confusing if you've never done it before and you're handed and you're like, oh crap, I'm gonna get a lot of penalties, which we actually got some penalties, but it wasn't a big deal. That's because we're both brand new and whatnot. Ran the first stage. First stage was awesome. I went super slow, trying to get the feel for stuff, figure out how to like process notes and whatnot, but we did pretty well. We managed to finish. There were quite a few cars that were stuck. There was a lot of deep mud still because it was early in the day from all the rain. So it was super muddy out there. We passed probably like 5 or 6 cars on the sides of the road because they ended up getting stuck or crashing or whatnot. So there was a lot of DNFs in this rally. But like I said, we managed to finish. Kind of was just one of those times where it's like, oh crap, there's a lot of deep mud. Downshift in a second or even first. Floor it, try to pick a good line and hope the car stays straight. And try not to hit the other guys that are stuck and keep that momentum, because this car really doesn't have enough power, and it would have just spun anyway if you lost traction and you lost that momentum. But managed to make it through the first stage without any sort of hiccups. It was a lot of fun. Got a little bit more confidence going into the second stage. The second stage was a lot faster of a stage too. So we did the transit, went to stage 2. Stage 2 was a pretty long stage. It was about 14 miles. It was super fun. It had the mud pit from hell, as people were calling it. So the way the rallies work, before you actually start the stage, you've got your 000, your 00, and your 0 sweep cars. So that's 3 different cars that are going to proof the rally route before you go. The 0 car is going right before the rally actually begins, to make sure that there's no cars on there, roads are still closed, or anything like down trees or something like that. They can hurry up, cancel the stage, and hopefully save someone from crashing. So it actually crashed, the 0 car. It hit a tree and then got stuck and then got fixed, like someone pulled it out. And they got it free, and then it ended up going and getting stuck in that mud pit from hell, as they call it. And it's a very large excursion that blocked quite a bit of the available space that you actually had to go through this mud pit. So it ended up causing a very large car pileup, and I think it got up to 5 cars getting stuck right there. So when I passed through, there was only 2 cars stuck up against it, or 3 total with the 0 car. So literally they would just come around the corner and they would get sucked into the ruts that big heavy excursion made, and they just kind of like, pretty much like a gravitational pull, just slammed right into the back of it. And then next thing happened to the next guy. I don't have any footage of it. I wish I did, but it was kind of awesome how we made it through. We almost went off, couldn't see anything because the windshield was just covered in mud, and she was actually calling like where I needed to turn for me, and it made it a lot of fun. And I just had to trust that she knew that we were good, and I just floored it and downshifted and kept going, and we managed to make it through there. Luckily, which that's why a lot of people got DNFs, was literally that stage. There were so many cars that got stuck on there, and we actually managed to have a pretty good time because we didn't. Finishing that stage, we ended up, I think we went into stage 3 after that, which stage 3 was also pretty uneventful. And then after we finished those 3 stages, we went into our first service. There were no issues with the car, but I wanted to pull all the wheels off, scrape the mud out. That way I didn't have to worry about that sand kind of getting bound up in the wheel, rubbing on my calipers, because I don't have wheel scrapers, which is one thing that I really need to add before the next rally, because it could easily eat through the rear calipers because they're aluminum, and apparently that's a pretty common issue on these things, which, I mean, it already has wear marks just from the sand that I actually had, but no holes were put through, which is good, and I definitely need to make those in the future. Once we left service, you go into paddock, which you got 25 minutes for service, and then like the paddock after that is just a regrouping. It's literally just so that they can get the start order correct again, because with cars not finishing stages and getting into service late, that they actually kind of like figure out who's fast again and make sure that they start in a good spot, so someone that's fast isn't going to start behind me just because I got to service before them or something like that. That way we don't clog up the actual stage and limit the amount of passing that people actually have to do. Then starting stage 4, which you guys saw, that was the very first video that I think I posted of our actual racing, and that was where I passed the Mercedes. Yes, that car is a big heavy turbo diesel, but it was a blast to actually get to do it. It was the best spot to do it too, because it was like the spectator area, so I know they got a good kick out of it. My parents were there. My dad actually filmed a video of it.
Oh shoot, they got caught up with one another.
That's my boy! Yeah!
And he got super excited, as you could tell. He had a blast watching the rally and was like super happy, and like a whole bunch of people gave him high fives or something over that, and it was cool. It was probably the best place, like I said, to actually pass someone in that corner. Then once we finished that, I think we went into stage 5, and then we hit a service. 5 was completely uneventful, which was another rally that you guys saw in the video, another stage. That was the second one that I actually put up, the only 2 that actually came out well. And then we went to service. We had a quick 20-minute service, or 25-minute service, I believe, and then did the same regrouping, and then left again, which we forgot to refuel on gas while we were there, and we ended up having to drive around and try to find a gas station on the way, which is kind of against the rules to do. But we did it because we would have ran out of gas, because we had to do, I don't know, it was like 40 miles or something like that, and we were less than a quarter of a tank, so it would have been really bad if we didn't get gas and we would have ran out of gas. But we ended up finding it, and then we ended up having a late check-in to our next stage, so we got a few seconds penalty, or maybe a minute penalty because of that. Which really wasn't a big issue, because we didn't have to just sit there and wait for somebody to come around with a gas can when we ran out halfway through that stage, which you get terrible gas mileage through a stage because you're driving wide open throttle for like the whole entire thing, keeping RPMs high. So we probably got like 7 to 10 miles to a gallon. I didn't actually calculate it all, but it was pretty bad. And also with that sand, we probably got even worse, because I had to literally keep it pinned in a lower gear than I probably should have for a very long time, because the sand was just ridiculous to drive through and pretty aggravating, not gonna lie. When like you have a perfectly straight area, which if it was even normal gravel, you would be going so much faster, or at least be working way less hard to go that fast, at least with the engine. And it actually caused like the oil temp to go up crazy high. Started to have to back off a little bit near the end of stage 5, stage 6, and mostly due to high oil temps, not wanting something bad to happen with that. So that service led us into stage 6, which is when the car started to have issues. So I ended up having a super lean condition under load. I'm not sure what was causing it. Like I was saying in the beginning, I feel like it's the fuel pump now, because I was having that issue just starting it and I hadn't before. So it could be something with that, or the fuel pressure regulator or whatnot. So I need to diagnose that. But then also, like a little bit later through that stage, in stage 6, we had the brake issue. So we ended up severing the brake line. And like I said, that was purely because of where I routed the brake line, and I did such a bad job kind of envisioning it, and it kind of got pinched between the subframe and the frame of the car. So I've got a much better design in my mind. I'm just going to go through the wheel well instead, and it's going to be a lot less outside of the car and a lot less underneath the car as well. So it's only going to be on the sides of the wheel well, which will be good for future use to protect that. So yeah, we had no power and no brakes on that stage after like the first half, which was fun, using like the emergency brake, which I'm really glad that I retained, to stop the car on quite a few occasions, because it would have been really bad if I didn't have that. So we limped it to service. We had the long service of the day, so it was 45 minutes. We had 45 minutes to fix that brake line, which we kind of did. It was pretty ghetto. Here's a picture. We definitely just crimped it, but it was enough to at least get pedal pressure that we were able to bleed the brakes again, and they were decent. So we had 3 brakes. Left rear wheel wasn't working, obviously, and we also thought that it was the O2 sensor, so we were messing around with the O2 sensor, trying to unplug it, whatnot, trying to get the car to run into limp mode, so just dump more fuel in and I wouldn't have to worry about going super lean. But some reason we couldn't get in limp mode. Unplugged the map sensor, unplugged the O2 sensor. Nothing changed how the car ran. Like, it still ran exactly how it did, which is weird that it still did that without all those sensors. So I'm not really sure. Like I said, I got to dive into that and try to figure that out. But so we didn't have power, but we were able to still make it through the stages. Super slow. We lost a lot of time on the stages because of that. We were actually sitting at about 7th overall. We went into stage 5, and then stage 6 we lost power too, so we lost probably like 45 seconds to a minute on that stage. And because of that, we started bumping down places. I feel like if we didn't crash and we had no issues with the car, we probably could have kept pushing and slowly worked our way up. But I mean, a lot of that was really due to a lot of DNFs and stuff, not that we were literally driving that fast. but there just weren't that many cars left on the road after the rough stages. So anyway, stage 7, we ended up limping through that, super slow, still had brakes. Stage 8, same thing, super slow. We still had brakes for half of it. And then that crimp job that we didn't hold. We ended up losing brake pressure again, so the last half, which that stage was a lot of fun. I wish I had film of it. It was super twisty through the woods. It was actually woods. It wasn't like big open wide trails like we had been going on. It wasn't really sand. It was actually gravel. Like I was saying, super twisty, narrow roads, and it would have been a lot of fun with power and brakes. But we had neither. If we had power and no brakes, then it would have been kind of bad. So if you lose both, it's not really a big issue. Then we finished stage 8. So that was the second to the last stage. We did our transit using just the parking brake, really sketchy. Did like a 10 miles transit to stage 9, so the final stage. It was a pretty long stage. I think it was like 10 miles, so not too long, but it took forever in this car because it was super slow and no brakes, so we ended up getting passed by like 3 or 4 cars, and I just pull over, turn my hazards on kind of, and drive as fast as I could, which was 35-40 miles an hour, which is kind of ridiculous. So it was really frustrating getting passed by so many people, but we still had fun, and she got to work on calling notes at least, and I got to sit there frustrated with having a broken car because I didn't do a good job making it. But yeah, we ended up finishing the final stage, and then we had to drive 30 miles to the finish. That was sketchy because we didn't have brakes, so we're driving like 45 miles an hour on the roads, just leaving huge gaps. Probably shouldn't have done it, but hey, we wanted to finish. If we had stopped and done anything else, then we wouldn't have been able to finish, and it was definitely worth it to at least say that we finished our first rally. Got there, pulled in, whatnot, had absolutely no brakes, no clutch at the end. So yeah, the car was literally falling apart at the end of it. So I got a lot of work to do in the future on this thing to get it 100% ready, and I also need to start bringing some spares with me as I run this rally. Well, that has been way too much talking. I apologize. I'll shut up. But anyway, like I said in the beginning, if you have any more questions, drop them. We'll try to answer them tomorrow. It'll be a little bit more talking tomorrow as well, but it'll be more interesting. My wife will be there to kind of make awkward faces with me as well, so it's not just me talking to myself into a camera the entire time. So if you're even watching this far, ask a question. We appreciate it. If you have anything that you want to know about rallies, we'll try to answer it and whatnot, if that's in a separate video or whatnot. But yeah, saying whatnot again. So the guy that said do a drinking game every time that I say whatnot, you're probably drunk right now. So if you actually did it. And whatnot, there's another one. So yeah, that's all I got.